Howdy, y'all. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. What we have here is a channel to communicate. I want you folks to be thinking by the time you leave my videos. Why? Because I'm tired of people talking via what other people tell them to think. So, watch my video and enjoy the chance to think for yourself. Oh, and if you don't mind, like, subscribe, comment. And I've got a link tree down below that's got my social media, and it has my Patreon if you want to help out. Thank y'all. Here's something that most people aren't aware of. If you have a mental health issue and you study up on everything dealing with it because you're trying to be proactive, I guess is the right term, you get to a point where you're scared of cops. You don't trust them. You're afraid to call 911 if you're having a mental health crisis in your own home because it is very frequent. It is all too frequent that you'll end up with charges. Even though that you called for an ambulance to take you to a hospital, you can end up with charges. You can end up, well, let's just put it this way. I think it's called cop assisted suicide. Um, it's bad. And I'm going to be sharing stories along the way of people that have mental illnesses and their interactions with cops. And I'm also going to tell you that there is somebody who is actively working to change the situation. None of this is going to be happy-go-lucky. None of it is. If you don't want to listen to very frightening situations, don't listen. I'm about to tell some stories that aren't going to be pleasant. In Atlanta, a Army veteran was suffering from mental illnesses that came about because of his time in the military. While he was at home in some apartments in Atlanta, he started freaking out. He ended up down in the parking lot, no clothes on. He was completely naked. So you could tell that he had no weapons whatsoever. He was doing badly. The first person there was a cop. And yes, the stories back then, this was over 10 years ago, just a little over 10 years ago. I can't find the stories to give you a link to it. But I was in Atlanta at the time. I was also talking to cops at the time. The stories were not focused on the fact that he was a Army veteran. It was focused on the fact that it was a black man and a white cop. The cop, instead of using non-lethal force, pulled his handgun, and the Army veteran, well, is no longer with us. Let's just put it that way. Now, I don't know what in the world you've got to do. If you're completely naked, nothing in your hands whatsoever, you're just freaking out. To me, that would say that would be screaming mental health issue. And I would call backup and I would call for an ambulance. But no, this cop decided to take the man's life. Now, I know of another story in Atlanta where a person was having a mental health crisis. This was actually Marietta area. And this person was running around naked, and he ended up in jail with charges. Thankfully, he didn't go to jail, and maybe it was because of skunk killer. I don't know. What it turned out was that this man had undiagnosed schizophrenia. It was just starting. Literally, he was at the beginning stages of schizophrenia. But instead of that doing him any good, mental diagnosis, which should have happened because he was sober, he ended up with charges. He's having a mental health crisis. He ended up with charges. And that's just two instances that I know of for a fact where the person had that problem. This is from the website Mental Health America. It's an organization that, of course, deals with mental health. Here is a paragraph from what they have in a report. Many of the problems associated with police involvement in behavioral health issues can be avoided by creating alternatives. Non-behavioral medical emergencies such as heart attacks, strokes, and non-vehicular accidents are often handled by the 911 system. But rather than dispatching a police officer, an ambulance is sent. A law enforcement response to a mental health crisis is almost always stigmatizing for people with mental illnesses and should be avoided when possible. Whenever possible, mental health crises should be treated using medical personnel or, even better, specialized mental health personnel. Substance use disorders can be handled in a way that promotes recovery, not victimization. We have a problem in this country where law enforcement is looking to get arrested. People that have mental health issues are a prime target if they get arrested. Notice I said if, because there are far too many that, end up like Roland Hill. He at least got arrested, but by the time he made it to jail, the deputies in the Virginia Beach City Jail decided, we don't care. And they beat him to a pulp to the point that he ended up on a medical examiner's table. 5 cops did that. Now, I said that there is somebody that has a solution. Aldo DiBellardino is running for sheriff in Virginia Beach. But not just that. He has also started something called the Peacemaker Sheriff Movement. Now, some people who don't want him to succeed have called him out over minor issues, and I don't even consider them minor issues. He has a problem with people that break the law, that are in this country illegally. They broke the law to get here, so they're criminals. It's actual federal law. And he believes that the grand jury system in this country has changed to the detriment of the people. Well, I just read a book called The Gotti Wars, and the description that a federal judge who was who is writing about his time as an AUSA while working to convict John Gotti, in his description, the man's name is John Gleason, in his description, the way that he described a grand jury, and he goes into detail, it sounds very much a tool of politics over actual justice, or it can be used for that. I honestly don't think that John Gleason did that. The way I was reading his book, he actually sounds like he did a fair job. But there are other instances where it makes you wonder. And so those two issues are sticking points for everybody. But Aldo happens to have a solution for mental health issues. Since the Virginia Beach Sheriff only does 3 jobs: run the jail, does security for the courthouse complex here in Virginia Beach, and delivers civil papers. Those 3 things are what he has to deal with. Now, I talk quite a bit on mental health issues to people I know. Mostly because I'm a veteran. I've been affected by mental health issues because of some physical damage that was done to my brain, and because of other things that have happened in my life. So when I got to writing, I got asked by one of his staff for the election to write copy. Well, I didn't know what his stance was on mental health until I actually met him this past Saturday. But I wrote in there, especially because of the Roland Hill incident. Roland Hill had mental issues, that we needed to have some mental health professionals that handle people. Well, found out that Aldo actually was already thinking along the same lines as me. He wants to have mental health professionals, not necessarily psychiatrists, but specialized social workers that are going to be at the intake. So when the prisoners come in, the people that have been arrested come in, they get screened for mental health issues. And there will be mental health professionals that will be monitoring what is going on with these people, making sure they get medication if they need it, making sure that they're not in crisis, because being in a jail can bring upon all kinds of mental health issues. And this was something he was already considering, and that's something that is part of the peacemaker situation, the peacemaker movement. And that's a good thing, because there are too many veterans that are losing their life or going to jail because of mental health crises. There are too many people that are, well, ending up in graves because of mental health issues that wasn't by their own design. It was done because cops were the first on the scene, and, well, they did not do anything that was related to mental health helping. It was more along the lines of they were having a power trip. I know that there are good cops out there. When my mind snapped 10 years ago now, maybe less than that, I don't remember exactly when it was. I went up into the mountains and I wanted to do away with myself, and I was wanting to do it in the most beautiful place that I know, which is the mountains of Tennessee. Something was able to prevent me from doing that, and Lord knows I tried. I'm not going to go into details, but yes, I did try. I wasn't trying not to. I was actually trying. I came out of the mountains. I literally had to walk out of the mountains. I ran my SUV out of gas, killed the battery, and I walked out of the mountains. And I called 911 when I finally got to a store. I got a ride part of the way, but I walked a long way. I got to a phone because I'd killed my cell phone and called 911. And a officer came down that the man treated me with respect. That was very needed at that time. But I know that my brothers and sisters that served in uniform, and I consider everybody that served in uniform, to most of them, because there are some that don't deserve it, but I consider everybody that served in uniform pretty much my brother and sister. I don't care what your skin color is. I don't care what your religion is. I can disagree with you and you still be my brother or sister. I've talked to many veterans that have told me horror stories of dealing with police officers when they were having mental health issues. When they were in crisis, the cops made it worse. Now, there is a person wanting to help that. Why? Because he's surrounded by veterans who understand the same situation. But it's not just that. Even if he isn't able to do the changes that he wants, there needs to be a change in this country in how people with mental health issues are treated. Because it's getting to the point where it's ridiculous. Rolling Hill here in Virginia Beach is just one of way too many examples. The gentleman that I described earlier, the Army veteran, another example. I know of many people who have had to go through that. And then you take a look at uh, women who have had non-consensual sexual escapades. I don't know if escapade is the right word for it, but you're getting my drift. I'm trying not to say that word because this is going on YouTube. Probably shouldn't have said some of the other or one other word in here, but that leaves an impact on women. It leaves an impact on men. Somebody tried to strip the power from you in one of the most intimate ways that they can do it, and it's done forcibly. You don't think that that doesn't mess with somebody's head, male or female, but females especially. There's quite a few instances that I know of where they start acting out. Well, when they start acting out, cops get called if they're doing anything that anybody suspects is criminal. Well, if they are suffering because of any number of things that can go wrong mentally because of what they went through, they're having suffering added to their life. You can't do this continuously. In this nation, you can't do it. I don't want this to continue. Aldo D. Bellardino, my southern redneck self, doesn't always know how to do the whole Italian and other language words, but he's got a solution. He is fighting to be able to do that solution. So perhaps we need to give him a shot instead of calling him names, instead of lumping him in with people that he doesn't agree with. Maybe it's time that we start trying to help him and listen to him. I said yesterday he's a policy wonk. He is. But at the same time, he's honestly wanting to bring some good change. And I am more than willing to work with somebody that is wanting to stop the toll on the lives of those that have mental health issues. I don't even know how else to go about doing it. This is my only way of helping him in this and helping not just my brothers and sisters, but the many other people that are affected by mental health issues that are getting jail sentences instead of help. It's telling in this country that 3 of the largest mental health facilities in this nation are attached to jails. Los Angeles, Chicago, and then Rikers in New York City. We need to end this. Period. We need to end this, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you for listening to me all the way through. And I honestly hope that you understand why I made this video. I am tired of seeing people who are trying to make an honest change that are not part of the power struggle or the power system in this nation getting fought against by the power system, and people just gladly listen to those that are in power that have corrupted the system. We need to fix that because there are too many lives that are being lost by this. This has been Paul, the Redneck Thinker, and I seriously want you to think about everything that I just told you. Have a good day. Folks, I just want to say thank you for listening. I want to thank you for taking your time. I want to hear what your comments are about what you think on this topic, because your comments are what's important, not necessarily mine. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're conservative. I don't care if you're liberal. I don't care if you're Democrat. I want to hear your opinion on these topics. I want to thank you yet again for listening to my video. Like, subscribe, and all that other hoopla. This has been Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Y'all have a good day now. Bye.